Hello everyone, this is Betsy from Ideas Times 2. Welcome to our channel. Today I have something I've been wanting to do for a while. So I have a tutorial on how to make a junk journal cover using vintage scraps. So some of these are literal scraps that I had. Some of them are cut out from a larger, like a tablecloth or something like that. And some of them are just, tiny scraps that I had. So hold this up a little closer so you can see. Also had some quilted pieces, and so those are on there. Chenille. And you can probably see this was just a linen. I don't think it was a napkin. I think it might have been a placemat. Tablecloth, another piece of chenille. This is a quilted piece. Tablecloth, embroidered doily. Just little snippets from all these precious little things that I had. And before you judge me about cutting into some of these fabrics and stuff, they're projects. For example, this was a tablecloth that I had purchased, and it had a nice scallop pattern on it, so I actually used them for curtains for years and years. And then I changed the look of my dining room, so I took those down and washed them and saved them for a project, right? So now I've begun cutting it into little pieces, and I'm gonna reuse them for this. So it's a well-loved piece of fabric, and some of these were too little. I purchased some little quilted pieces from somebody on Etsy, and so those were already cut. Some of the linens were stained and really couldn't be used for like a show piece or anything like that. And so anyway, this is from a vintage pillowcase here. So lots of beautiful, beautiful prints that I've just incorporated and made it into a new project. So I hope that doesn't bother anyone here. As junk journalers, we just use up what we have, right? And we make it into something new, generally speaking. So I hope that's, something that you might appreciate. And I thought I'd show you how I made this. I think it turned out so cute, and it's just, I'm a very tactile person, and it just like feels really good. There's just texture, and I still appreciate the beauty of the textiles in a unique way. All right, so this is one that I previously made. Here's the inside, and you can see that the spine is sort of demarked with sewing lines, and I'm just gonna show you what I did with this, how I made it. Of course, there are many, many different ways, and I'll try to explain some of those as we go, as to what you can use to make it into a cover, make it stiff enough for a cover. And some people prefer really soft, so I could just layer up a couple pieces of fabric and then just have it flip and turn, literally just like a piece of fabric. And so if you prefer that, then that is, totally optional. So anyway, I like this, and I just wanted to show you how I made it. I'm going to be making another one, so along with you. So I'll have two, and I think they're going to be so much fun to fill and make into journals. Enough of that. So this is a patchwork style, right? So it's raw edges of the squares and rectangles. Also, it doesn't have to be squares and rectangles. I just prefer that, but you can have triangles. For example, if I had like a bouquet and it was totally in a triangle shape, you could do that too. But it's all raw edge, and then I finished off the edges, or I sewed the edges down with a zigzag. So it's a little, they're little threads and interesting sort of elements on there already. And the edges are also raw, so that's going to fray a bit and look kind of, well loved. So I think that's cool. This has raw edges as well. And you can glue paper pockets, you can glue maybe another piece of one of your fabrics here. You could glue that on here and make a pocket. Maybe sew it onto a piece of cardstock first and then make a pocket out of that. I think that would be super cute. So that's kind of what I did. It's just more like a patchwork. So actually this one is not a rectangle. I sort of tucked this corner in because I realized I had sewn directly over the rooster's head and I didn't want to do that. So I unpicked the stitches and then just flipped it under just a little bit. So that one is a little odd shaped. You could use, this is a little hand tatted edging. So you could sew lace on here. You could sew lace around the outside edge. Those are all options just for the you know, the basic design of the, pretty pieces of lace, or put lace on the spine. It's actually a really good size for that, isn't it? But I kind of like it just the way it is, so I'm going to leave mine the way it is, but you can definitely incorporate lace onto the cover as well, which I think would be super pretty. I'm getting low, but I do have a little bit of a supply of antique Norwegian lace, and so something like that would be absolutely beautiful on here, and it's a way to kind of preserve it as well. All right, so there's patchwork. You could like sew your pieces of fabric together just like this. So this would be considered piecing, right? So those are just pieces of fabric sewn together, and you could definitely do it like that. I'm not saying this design. This is actually a temperature quilt that I'm working on. And so I just thought I'd show you. You can actually sew the pieces together like that, or this is just patchwork. So the way I did the patchwork is I start with the size that I want. So this spine is 2.5 inches, and it is a 9-inch high book, and then the cover all together, including the spine, is 16 inches. Now I do think, so when I put some signatures in here, these are definitely not done. I'm gonna put all kinds of tabs, fabric tabs and different things. I have, leftover scrap from the lining or the inside cover of that, and I had, if I could find it, I had a strip that I cut off of here, so it's already like a quilted strip. Anyway, and I thought I'd use that for tabs as well. I don't know what I did with it. What? I don't know. Anyway, so lots of fibers, and I'm going to put lace on these pages, so it's going to have lots of fibers, sort of focusing on fibers, right? So when I put this in here, I do want to mention, when I fold pieces of paper in half, I love it, top to bottom, it's perfect, but let me fold this back like this. You can see this is really kind of long, I think. So this next piece that I'm going to be working on, which I don't mind, like I'll probably put a pen loop here and just work with it. And the nice thing about the fabric cover too is that you can sew in your closure. You can sew in fabric or ribbon or silk or whatever you want. You can just sew it right on the cover, which is super nice. But anyway, I do think that is a bit too long for what I was thinking. I could still cut this and then re-sew the edge. I could, that wouldn't be a problem at all. But I kind of like the way this is positioned right here. So I might just leave it and put a pen loop and pretend like I did it on purpose. So I did cut this down 1 inch. So this one is obviously 15 inches by 9. So what this is what I would consider a base. So a base, and it's canvas. Obviously you can use whatever you like. You could actually sew your patches onto, so when I say patches, I'm just referring to these little pieces, right? You could sew them onto batting directly. You could sew them onto paper. It's kind of up to you how you want to do it, but just for now, I'm kind of focusing on the way I did it with the other book. So I use canvas, and the reason why is because it's got a little more heft to it. It's got a little bit more body. What I kind of recommend doing, here are the pieces I've cut out already. And I literally just kind of, this was I think my first piece right here. And I knew I wanted to use quite a bit of this piece. And as you can see, I kind of am preferring at the moment sort of a color theme. Obviously this has lots of colors in it, but it's pretty much blue. Like you'd look at this and say that's a blue cover. Same with this, it's going to be green, right? Green cover. But obviously not everything is green. So it's kind of the way I roll, but you can definitely do it however you want. So the way I did it, I just started out and I'm cutting squares, rectangles, squares, rectangles. Like this, for example, obviously is going to be a really good rectangle piece, right? And this one is obviously a good square type piece, although I did use more of that to make it a rectangle. But look at these green strawberries. Aren't they just so cute? So squares, rectangles, and then I just started laying them down. And you, like the ones you prefer, you could maybe just say, okay, I'm going to start here because this will be my front cover. And I really like these pieces, so I'm going to try to arrange those here. And then just keep going. And you'll wind up, you know, switching things out. You maybe cut a different one. You might have scraps left over that you thought you were going to use and then you didn't, which I do here. But these are going to be so cute. You could use these for tabs. You could use these for snippets. So many uses for these little things. So don't throw these away and don't feel like you're wasting them because they definitely could be used for something else. So I did have some scraps that I cut that I didn't use. And that's kind of just the way it goes, I think. So because I basically go by looks, right? So I'm like, do I like this here? Do I like that there? And another thing I wanted to mention too. So I'm going to really try to use the hand crocheted scalloped edge as my book, on my book edge. So that'll, I'm going to try to keep that there. And then this is also a finished edge. Let me show you this. Can you believe the stitching on that? Move that thread there. That's hand stitched. It's just unbelievable to me how close those stitches are together. So I'm going to try to use this in my corner as well. And so that'll have to be sewn on carefully. So what I did was, like I said, just audition pieces here and there and see what you like. And so I've already done that. Literally just cutting into my pieces and arranging them. Now I did arrange it on a piece of cardstock just because I didn't have this cut out yet. So this is the exact size I want. I didn't cut it bigger than I need, although you could, and then overlap your pieces. It's going to be a little uneven at the top. We'll have to trim anyway, but this is basically what I did. I just arrange them onto your canvas or your paper or whatever it is that you're using. And then I recommend taking a picture. I took a picture of my design here because it takes you a minute, right, to figure out what you want. And then once you get it the way you want it, it's going to be hard to like take everything off and put it back the same way. Looks like I need to kind of iron that too. So I'll need to go off camera just for a bit here and take care of that. See, this is kind of hard for me to slip off here, but I should have done it right on the canvas, but okay. This was my first attempt at, well, maybe I should make a template, and this was basically to show myself like what size pieces I needed to cut. And that I kind of preferred this where they're probably like 3 inches or less. And this might be handy to keep just so you don't have to think about what size to make your book and stuff. And that was my initial thought, is I would use that to arrange my pieces, but that doesn't make any sense because that just makes more work. So I'm going to go ahead and rearrange these, and then I'll iron this, and then I'll be back and show you what the next step is. All right, so here we have it. I actually switched a couple things around as I was doing this, but I have it all as even as I can get on all the edges. And the next thing to do is to glue it down. Just tack it down. I shouldn't say glue it down because it doesn't have to be like flat 100% glued. Just tack it down with some glue, your favorite kind. I'm using Fabri-Tac here. Spreading it a little so it doesn't glob in any certain section, although this is doubled right here, so it should be just fine. So I would do it on the edges, in the center, a little, depending on if you have super flimsy. This is kind of flimsy, so I'm really going to try to be careful on this one. I'm going to tack it in a few spots. So I'm just lifting and just tacking down. Okay, all done. So it's not 100% glued down, but it's going to hold it tight, just enough for you to sew. Sometimes you'll start and stop in the middle, or sometimes you can just peel up a piece and then continue sewing. However it works is perfectly fine. So the next thing to do is take it over to the sewing machine. So we're sewing our arrangement onto our canvas. All right, we're all stitched, and I trimmed it down so it's nice and even with the canvas. Still, there was just a tiny bit of overlaps that I had here and there, and that's what I trimmed off. So now we have it like this. The edges are not trimmed yet, or are not sewn yet, because we're going to sew that together with the lining. And I picked this for my lining. It's a green stripe, maybe not as good of a color combo as I wanted, but I think I like the sort of ticking look to it, so I'm going to use that. But before we put the lining in and sew around the edge, now we have to decide what kind of body to give it. What kind of you could use it just like this and have a very sort of flexible feel to it. You could certainly do that. But what I chose to do is put foam interfacing. So it's got a little bit of a depth to it. Let me see if I can figure out how much that is. It's probably about 1/8 of an inch. You can use that, something like this, or you could use like a regular quilt batting like this. This is very thin, so you could use 2 layers of that, and I think that would make a lovely cover as well. So you could do that as well. So, but today I'm just showing you the exact way I did this one. This one does have foam in it, and so it gives the spine really good definition when I sew through that. So that was just kind of what I enjoyed doing, but certainly you could do it. This is the part where you could vary it up quite a bit and use some different things. Some people, I believe, I have seen people use like a file folder or a cardstock and no interfacing at all. And so they would just use the cardstock here and then put the lining on and sew it together. I kind of prefer more poofy, and so I'm using this. So this is the way I'm going to do it. All right, so I trimmed this foam interfacing. Now, yeah, don't feel like you have to run out and buy foam interfacing. Use what you have. You could even use flannel. Use a layer of flannel or 2 layers of flannel, and that'll give it another little poofiness to it, right? So please just use whatever you have. And if you don't like that puffy look, this foam interfacing is probably not for you, but I'm kind of giving you some ideas. So here is the way I do this. So I will just literally glue it to stabilize the placement of it. Just glue it, tacking it a little bit. I'm not really going hog wild or anything. Okay, and since this is canvas plus fabric on top of the canvas, this is not going to bleed through, so that's exciting. So as I mentioned, it's about 1/4 of an inch on all sides, a little bit smaller than my cover, my canvas there. Smooth that down, nice and smooth. Okay, and then comes the lining, which is raw edge as well. And I did cut it down already, so it's the right size. You could glue this down. You don't necessarily have to glue it down either. If you don't glue it down, it's gonna, you know, wrinkle up a little bit when you bend it, and there's nothing wrong with that. What I chose to do though was, oops, I'm gonna have to go off camera because I forgot to get it, but I'm gonna use a glue sheet and iron the glue sheet onto this, take off the paper, and then iron it directly on here. And then we're almost done. I'll be back in a minute. So when I say glue sheet, I mean heat and bond. And the heat and bond light is what I use, and it is sewable. If you try to use any other kind, it gums up your machine's not happy. So that is that. So I did cut a sheet out, and you use the rough side as the glue part. And so I'm gonna iron it directly onto the back side of my lining. Okay, all ironed on, and then after it cools off, you peel away the release paper, and there you have what's left over, which is the glue, which is shiny, and that will be ironed on again like this, and we're going to iron our sandwich together here. So you can iron directly on the foam. The foam is stuck on there, right? You can iron directly over that, and that will attach itself onto there without any, you know, leaking of glue and that kind of thing. And plus it keeps it nice and sort of flat and not bumpy as you use the pages. So I'll be back. Okay, the inside cover is done. I keep calling it the lining, but it pretty much, you know, you get the idea, right? Okay, so that's done, and I did have to trim it on one end, so I did that, and nice and flat. Now, before we take it to the sewing machine to finish off the edges, we're going to make our spine. And I want my spine to be 2.5. First of all, I just measured to the center. Okay, so I have these pens that are erasable with heat, and so I'm just marking on my outside cover here. So I found my center here, and then I went 1.25 inches on each side because I want a 2.5 inch spine altogether. So it's 1.25 inches from the center line on each of these, and my center line is missing, but I see my 1.25 inch marks here, so that should line up. And then I'm going to take those lines and connect them, hopefully without getting my head in the way. I want those lines to be nice and straight so I can follow them easily with my sewing machine. So these are friction pens, really great pens for any fabric marking that you need to do. And like some of the stitching is rough, so I'm just kind of dotting my line a little bit. And then we'll sew directly on those lines for our spine. It'll give us a nice little bendy part for our spine. Oops, I got carried away with my line there. This one's hard to see because there's cross stitches there. Yeah, that works. Okay. So I will go ahead and do that. And then after I get those two lines sewn, I'm just going to stitch around the outside edge. So on this one, I just did a straight line. You could also do a zigzag. I might just do a zigzag. It is a zigzag here because I stitched this onto the canvas first. And then I'm like, oh, well, I have to stitch around my, I have to connect this inside part to the outside part. So then I wound up doing a straight stitch as well as my zigzag. But a zigzag, I think, is a nice look because that's what I did on the rest of the pieces. So I will straight stitch those down and then zigzag around the outside edge. All right, I'm back. So here it is. There's the outside, the inside. There's our spine defined there. And it's still soft and flexible. Still soft and flexible, but it gives it a lot of body to put some signatures in there. Here's the blue one. And I'm just going to get a signature ready and sew those right in there, and you've got a beautiful little soft cover journal. So that's it for today. Lots of variety you could do with these, as I kind of was trying to describe as we went on. And take those stained and old and not, these were all stuffed in a drawer. So instead of stuffing them in a drawer, now they're going to be they'll be used and well loved. And I don't know, my favorite thing is just touching it, like just touching the softness. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please give us a like and a comment would be wonderful. And we do have a Facebook group if you make something like this, or if you have any other ideas, or if you did it a different way, or you could even just use one piece. Say you had a tablecloth, you could just use one piece and kind of do it the same way. It's just so much fun to think of new ways. And so we do have a Facebook group. If you'd like to join and send us pictures, we'd love to see them. Our Facebook group is Ideas Times 2. We're on Instagram, same thing. And we also have an Etsy shop, which is also Ideas Times 2. So thank you so much for joining me. We appreciate you so much, and take care and have a great day. Goodbye.